Hello, welcome to another lecture with Professor Dennis. This time we're going to be looking at plagiarism. Really big topic on a lot of campuses. All right, let me get this pulled up nice and big for you. So welcome to my lecture on plagiarism. I want to start by prefacing why this topic is important enough to have its own full-length lecture. There are a couple of reasons. The first is that all schools have an academic integrity statement that they hold their students to for all coursework. The second is because authors work hard. Think about how hard you have been working in your classes. Would you really want someone to take the credit for your ideas? I didn't think so. Authors are the same way. And the third reason I would like to point out is probably the most important for anyone conducting any research or turning in any papers that require research. When you cite your sources in a well-presented manner, you're showing your audience just how much you understand about this topic and lifting yourself up to the level of expert, right along with those you are quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing from. We're going to examine 4 different types of plagiarism with this lecture and how to go from potential plagiarism to correct citation. These include the following categories: wording, content, citation, and self. Word-for-word plagiarism takes place when the wording of one author is used exactly as it is found in the original source you got it from. The way to correct this issue is to add quotation marks around the section that are word for word out of the text and include an in-text citation. Pro tip for you, try to only use one quote per subtopic. I always tell my students to use only the quotes that you know you can't live without. Next, with wording plagiarism is the mosaic plagiarism. This uses many of the original words in the same order and grammatical structure as the original source. There are a few words here and there that have been changed by using synonyms. Even though you've done this, it's still plagiarism. To correct this issue, add quotes around the word-for-word sections that cannot be paraphrased and include an in-text citation. The preferable method is to use entirely different words by paraphrasing to convey the information. Even with this, you will need an in-text citation. After wording plagiarism, we have content plagiarism. The first up for this category is misrepresented meaning. Misrepresented meaning occurs when the writer uses a source to present information that the source never actually claimed or intended in the original writing. I'm sure you can think of a time or two when someone quoted something to you and you thought, that's not what that means. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about here. When you look at the full piece of writing, you'll see that the information given was pulled out of context, or the meaning presented was never what the original author intended it for. To correct this, make sure that you attribute opinions accurately and match them with the original author's intent, as well as an in-text citation. This may require a few rereadings of the original source to accomplish, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with rereading something to make sure you understood it correctly. Next up for content plagiarism is a failure to represent the entire message. This is also known as misconstrued meaning. This is when the writer does not convey the whole argument of the original source. Think of it as a little lie of omission. If you know what a lie of omission is, you know that it's leaving out a key piece of information. That's what is taking place here. To correct this, just make sure you are conveying the entire thought process of the original author and including an in-text citation. Our next area of content plagiarism is the poor paraphrasing segment. This is when the ideas of the original source are not clearly conveyed. This could be an instance where the grammatical structures from the original source are followed exactly, even though the wording is different. To correct this issue, I have a pro tip for you. Read the segment of your source that you want to paraphrase. Then read it again. Great. Now read it 2 or 3 more times. After you've read it a few times, set your original source aside and write down in your own words what that part of the source is saying. When you put this in your paper, make sure you give it an in-text citation. The wording may be yours, but the ideas still came from someone else. Remember, give credit where credit is due. We're going to move on now to citation plagiarism. Citation plagiarism occurs when the parenthetical citation or works cited entries are missing or inaccurate. To correct this problem, add proper parenthetical citation within the text each time you use information from one of your sources. Make sure that it follows the latest MLA or APA in-text citation formatting. Another type of citation plagiarism is inadequate citations. This is where a piece of information is missing. Here, I have a sample of improper MLA in-text citations. Either the author last name or the page number is missing. They're not both present together. To correct this, all you have to do is put the two together as shown here. You might not know this, but you can also plagiarize yourself. How? This is most common in academic settings. Self-plagiarism occurs when you turn in the same work for 2 different classes, or when you reuse old papers for a new class. How is this considered plagiarism? At the collegiate level, you're being asked to learn new skills and to show how you're growing in the class. When you reuse old work for this purpose, you're not actually showing the growth that's being asked of you. While it does not hurt the professor or even your classmates, it does hurt you. You are shorting yourself of the opportunity to grow in new skills. In this world of publishing, self-plagiarism is when you turn in a previously published piece to a publisher who only wants new and fresh content that has never been published before. It really comes down to honesty and integrity for both cases. You have to be honest with yourself and have the level of integrity needed to push through and complete the new content that is being asked of you. But I didn't have time to come up with anything new. I hear that one a lot. The answer is that you signed up for this class. You're being required to learn and grow in this class. In order to do that, you need to make the time to do the work. If you need help with budgeting your time, try using a planner. I have multiple options available for download and print, as well as videos on how to use them. The different options mean that you can select the one that works best for you. Why did I just spend all of this time on plagiarism? The truth is that this is so important because your integrity as an author is on the line. Readers want honest authors. They want to trust where they're getting their information from. It's also important because you need to understand that your in-text citations are not optional. They are mandatory. And your paper is going to be checked each time you submit them with a similarity software. With that in mind, you might be asking how to check your paper for plagiarism. Let's examine some of the most common mistakes I see on a routine basis so that you know what they are and how to avoid them. The first, not citing in text, means that you have you've used a piece of information in your paper. You might have even listed the source at the end of the paper in the resources section. However, you forgot to put the in-text citation for the piece of information that you pulled from. The number one error I see is not giving an in-text citation. Just because you forgot does not excuse you. It's actually a form of plagiarism. The first is easy. When you use a piece of data, a fact, a statistics, or even an opinion from one of your sources, you need to give an in-text citation. There are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can either put the author's name as part of the paper where you state that you pulled this from the author, or you can give the piece of information and then a proper in-text citation in parentheses. I have a sample here for you of one way where you could state the author and then give the information. Note that I gave the author names. Since there are two of them, the piece I pulled it from is also clearly stated in the writing itself. This is followed by the page number in parentheses. The page number is the in-text citation in this case. The next example shows you what it would look like if you're given information, but you do not want to directly state the author's name in your own prose. In this case, you give the information. This one happens to be another paraphrase, and follow it with the correct in-text citation. See? Easy fix. In both examples, your reader is told who the author is and what page number they will be able to find the information on. This is standard for MLA formatting. This is so the reader can go to your sources and see for themselves what it is that you are referencing. Some readers like to double check the facts, even though you're giving it to them in the proper citations. They want to know that you're being honest with them and conveying a message that's properly represented. They might also be conducting their own research. If that were the case, they would look at your references for additional locations where they could find information about their topics. I hope you found this lecture helpful, and I hope that this has really instilled in you that you do need those in-text citations. It's very important. If you get nothing else from this lecture, please take away at least that piece of information. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please make sure to email your professor using that email icon in your LMS system. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the flip side.